What's up, guys? I'm not gonna have too much of a discussion like the previous one. If this happens to be a pretty good one, it's pretty good. How are you guys doing? This is gonna be kind of an open office hours period. I'm at the side simply because I don't know if you want to see my room, whatever. Yeah, it's a mess. Uh, I got my bed over there. Yeah. So this is an open discussion period. You guys want to ask any questions? That's what this is for. Um, but yeah, we're gonna if you have any Q&A questions, so like weird stuff, not Q&A, just deepest question in the universe, deepest question you think I'll answer. It's because I saw those guys, I saw people that have like, ask me the deepest question you can possibly think of. What is the answer of life, bro? And then they get so bored. And then like if why ask for people to ask you the deepest question possible if then you're not even gonna answer it? Because and then they eventually end up having their thing like this, like, yeah, man, that's pretty deep. Yeah, uh, meaning of life, bro. Like, fuck, man. Like that's just life is whatever you want to make it, man. Like, there's no inherent meaning to life, you know? Like, shit, bro. I'm like, why? What's the point of people ask you the deepest questions and then they give you the worst answers, man? It's like, what is love? Love is like the most, like, the thing like we're all after, man. Like, like it's just like, bro, man, like answer something else. Give me something more to work off other than just like, I'm just as confused as you. That's not what people want. So happy Saturday. At least I think it's Saturday. Let me check. Yeah, it's Saturday. Yeah, it's Saturday. Just open period. Deepest questions. I'll actually answer them. Unlike, like I really gotta come up. I really gotta just like spend the time just to write in like some sort of blank file, put that on my black screen, and then people will actually, like read it and be like, ask me the deepest questions possible, deepest question of the universe. What? Or I could be like that one, guy. So right now, I just want this to be an open, just kind of like chill period, kind of like more humorous, more light. But we can definitely ask deep questions. Just right now, I'm trying to be entertaining, just trying to captivate, trying to keep people alive, keep people going. Um, I wanted to just make fun of various things. So that one guy, what bothers me about him is that when he answers questions in the most in the weirdest of ways, in the way of, well, you see, the meaning of consciousness is so abstract that no one can really know. But what we really do know is that the unity in everything, the set of everything, really is what it is. Yeah, I don't like when people answer questions like that. I think it doesn't help anyone. I think it's funny that when he does it, he's like, well, you see, it is what it is, and ego is ever present in all of us. So if you can transcend your ego, then you can really understand what consciousness is. Bro, that's ego. And just because you're a Buddhist doesn't mean you're out of ego. That's something as well. I'm surprised. I'm actually pretty much very fluid in my own energy, fluid in my own self, and nobody. That's pretty funny, man. That's just something I'm just saying, man. I don't know what you guys want. You guys are just like people, fluid people come and go. People come and go, man. What would it be to captivate you guys? What, me add some music, me to be like, oh, let's do some go dancing. Nah, man. Nah, man, I'm not about. Or maybe it's Saturday morning. Perhaps it's just that. Saturday morning. Yeah. Um, we can drop wisdom, drop nuggets of wisdom, actual wisdom, unlike, freaking, that one guy being like, you see, you have to transcend your ego, man. That's boring. That's boring. What's up? How are you guys doing? The actual people that have the nutsack, the testicular fortitude, as they would say in the Marine Corps. You have the testicular fortitude to actually be present in this in this morning. Happy Saturday, man. I guess everybody's still asleep and drunk from Friday. Well, what's it called? I was gonna go live yesterday, but I was like, man, um, not quite sure. I was just not feeling it. But we're on here right now, so I'm actually feeling so bubbly, so happy with this performance that I wouldn't mind uploading this to YouTube. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know, man. Whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. This is office hours period. Take your time. Take your time. Ask the professor questions. Whatever. What am I going to be doing right now? We'll find out. We'll find out what I'm going to be doing right now. So let me show you how to do an introspection. So at this point, it's for YouTube audience. 0 people right now. So we're actually going to do an introspection. What I mean by that is this is going to be sort of a recording, an actual understanding. So if you happen to watch this live, well, why, whatever. I understand that when I do go live, it seems to be pretty rare, pretty sporadic. I'm not sure what you guys perceive of me. Interesting. But what I'm trying to say, at least right now, just I'm trying to communicate the various complex spaces that are ever present around us. It is communication space. It is obviously vector spaces of reality. So this is what I mean by vector spaces. It's actual physical spaces like this. X, Y, Z axis. X, Y, Z axis does matter. What we mean by that is what's present on screen, but it's not just that. As I mentioned in my other TikTok video, it is Euler space. So it's audio, it's sound, it's ambient, it's light. Those are different aspects of vector spaces that you have to deal with, contend with. What's interesting, and it's quite kind of. It seems unbelievable, but please take the time to really recognize that this is what it is. So one of the most common vector spaces that I was just mentioning right now is what's called inner world, outer world space. So this can be coded. Have I looked at vortex mathematics? Yes, actually. That's actually the entire basis of what's called electrodynamics, electromechanics. So it's gradient, the gradient, which is for parallel, and the curl, which is once again the Delph operator, but it's the curl version. So that's for curve spaces. You can actually, so if you're working in just vortices, you're going to be working with just curl. If you have any gradient or inward outward flow, you're going to work with gradient. That's how that works. But so what I was saying right now is that is with all spaces. So I mentioned there's something called vector, 3D vector space. So that's this. This is a component of reality, at least of communication reality. There's what we went over in the video. There is brightness. So, oh no, look at form. It's aestheticism, the Euler number video. That's what that is. There's also information component, which is the linear exchange. But it's not just linear exchange. It's attention grabbing. Attention grabbing has this UD array style, up, down, it's composition, it's balance. Look at this background, very plain. It's only going to attract very specific people. So that's something. Hey, my Kingski guy. Hell yeah. Glad to see you here, brother. That's really cool. So I was just figuring, I had quite the dramatic performance earlier. I was just burps. Yeah, I actually do have a YouTube. I was actually figuring of uploading just whatever I did earlier. So my performance, I was just messing around. If you click on my TikTok account and then click on that little banner thing, the YouTube thing, it takes you to my YouTube channel. It's mostly where I put old lives, but I didn't put all of them. I kind of regret not putting my because I did some flight ones. We actually could do Kerbal Space Program if you guys feel like it, we can actually I can show you guys some extra flight stuff. So I didn't actually show you guys any clips at all from my deployable wingman fighter concept. I actually was streaming the development for a week straight. So from about like I think 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. I was working. Can I do lessons and upload on YouTube? Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't really have like the exact good quality and stuff like that. So I only upload stuff with TikTok Live, because I don't have any sort of like quality recording software or strong computers. I can't really do that stuff, unfortunately, for now. But yes, I can. What kind of lessons would you like to see, brother? At this point, it is what it is, and this video will be what it is, but I'm putting it up to YouTube. So yeah, what would you like to see? This is bad practice. You do not want to be shaking your electronics. It's not good to do that, because these are not what's called permanent devices. These devices are fragile. These devices are real. You don't have a magic wand that makes everything immune to forces. So let me just go back to that, just because I think it's useful. Nope, I don't have it there. This. All right. So the structure of things, keep in mind, because there are little pieces like that inside here. Your devices aren't magical. So whenever your device breaks, the engineer, so here's an aspect of how I can path through the world. So there's opera. Opera means the conversation that would have happened between you and another person if you had the ability to communicate directly to them. If you fail in that communication in the highest level of opera, then you're not there yet. So the engineer, if you were to break this, the engineer would say, "What did you think this was? This is clearly just a capacitive device. How did you mistreat this device to break it? What, did you think it was a drumstick? Why'd you keep tapping it?" The engineer will give you their qualms and their issues, and they'll mock you. Most engineers mock you, like, what kind of idiot thinks this thing is an unbreakable device? So, do you believe consciousness is primary, emergent? That's pretty cool. That's actually a really good question. I think consciousness seems to be emergent. I don't think it's primary. It seems to be emergent, but it's not just emergent from just our biological system, which happens to have the exact dynamics that allow consciousness. So it's any system which has the dynamical properties of like this continuous exchange of information and corrective features. So interesting that physicists and biologists have identified this phenomenon. It's the principle of least action. So you've definitely seen that video. Everybody has seen at this point the video of that yellow slime mold, about how people Japanese scientists put it, and then it follows gradient flow. That's all it is, gradient flow. But consciousness and biology work so well together, because they are trying to get what's called the most action with the least amount of energy. So how the brain works, how the brain becomes smarter and smarter and smarter, is that we use the coding. I'm gonna go back to it because I just talked about it, of the UD array. So I was actually talking about conscious space. I've actually drawn examples of how to visualize it. I've drawn these things. All right. And here's the UD array. So the UD array is just for the up, down, anti-down, get me those stuff things. And then there's another array that you can have, which is the UD array, but explained how it is the W plus, W minus. This is just explaining how you would use this and use AND gates to then trigger. This now makes the W plus just a 1. This is turned on. If that occurs, that's turned on. If this occurs, that's turned on. If this occurs, that's turned on. So the brain does pretty much exactly that. So the brain converts, and you can start feeling it in your own life. When you have a tower moment when you finally understand something. Your brain tries to recompile the universe. And this is pretty much the cool thing. I've experimented with substances like that, and I've actually learned how to utilize them to their fullest capacity. To the point where I don't deal with them anymore. I don't need to, because I've gotten so fluid in and out of consciousness of lettuce that I don't need it. Like I have the creative capacity of lettuce without needing it. What I noticed though is if you do utilize lettuce, you better have a large repertoire of information that you haven't yet passed through. So then you can actually utilize lettuce to its most effect. So let me show you a quick example of what I mean by that. So we understand that now we have the UD array. So your brain is trying to do this stuff. Your brain doesn't want to have too many transistors to power an event. If you have tons of transistors, you're gonna get tired quicker, and that's why you're not efficient. You want to try to convert these into the UD array form, so then if you ever encounter the UD array decisions, your decisions are done quicker. It's interesting how consciousness utilizes principles of least action to naturally order the brain and the world around us into being that phenomenon. You can actually see as kind of like this fractal nature of the universe. Swipe right to see more comments. What the hell? That doesn't work. Oh, that's just to see them closer. All right. Yeah, I've had a similar experience. So just for you though, you asked that question about the 256 bits. So the reason the 256 bits exist, and we'll go over that real quick because I guess it's pretty good for YouTube. I'll draw it right here. So we'll explain how and why that actually works. Okay? So up is obviously just an up. So let's sort of draw the UD array real quick. Okay. If we just have a single up particle in the UD array, it looks like that. Okay. I said that the UD array is everything that is and everything that has to be. Okay. So the strange particle is actually going to be equal to an anti-up. So we're going to draw it with the UD array. It's going to be equal to an anti-up and an anti-down. And an anti-strange is equal to a regular up and a regular down. I'll draw it in explicit form so then you can actually start seeing, holy hell, these things actually have structure to them. There's actual structure to these things, and that's weird, man. That is weird. It is weird. It doesn't really matter how you define these things. Okay. Okay, and the charm, let me see. I always thought the lettuce had helped to dissolve ego, so I helped to look at the large info. Yeah, exactly, help look at large info in a new way. Precisely. Lettuce doesn't quite help you dissolve your ego as crazily as mushrooms do. Nice pizza topping mushrooms. Pizza topping mushrooms will give, what I've noticed, lettuce confines the consciousness. Lettuce limits you into just kind of linear flow, but not just linear flow. It lets you have creative insight, but it limits you from seeing and worrying about the entire world. When you're with mushrooms, it breaks all boundaries. You're no longer a lantern. You're no longer a fire in a lantern. You're just a fire. There's no lantern around you. You perceive the entire world. What I've noticed with pizza topping mushrooms is that you make connections instantly. So with lettuce, you have creativity. You have time to introspect because you're looking at this with a fine-tooth comb for the first time almost. With pizza topping mushrooms, you have kind of like instant calculations. You see the process to the very end. Anytime I had a question where I'm like, wait, but so like you don't BS anymore. You don't BS anymore. So when I was like, so what is the utmost like what's the finished product of all these things, of like physics, of like knowing this stuff? You see the end of society. Not the end of society in a collapsed civilization way. You see the end of society of, you're telling me we could do this? Like, we can actually invent a structure where we have the ability to understand and to weave like a mass communication network? Yes, we can. And then it fills you with such power because you're like, I can see the freaking path. But then, because you're with pizza topping mushrooms, you're already at the end. So now you get to experience the end. And you're like, either this is sadness, either this is sadness that this is a bad history, a bad future, or this is sadness that we're not yet there. It's kind of those kinds of feelings. I'd be curious, because you're really good at chess. I'd be curious if you engaged in pizza topping mushrooms, how you would view the sport. Because with lettuce, when I purposely played some chess, like I see chess in kind of like I'm not good at it. Well, I'm not great at it. I would say I'm about 1200 level, maybe about 1000 level. Nothing crazy, but I would say I can see I'm really good at what I have within my plans. But when you guys have like some lengthier plans, or when the rooks come in, it's weird. It's weird. But how you understand chess seems to be a skill set that follows kind of like these particle stuff. So like, I really believe that you should have these foundations in so many different fields, so many different branching, planes of knowledge. So we're gonna go back to the up down bit stuff real quick. But yeah, you need to have your knowledge in many different fields, because you get smarter. You actually do get genuinely smarter, because everything, like we said, is just these particle paths. Chess is really good at sort of setting you up for understanding how these decay reactions work. The thing that bothers me about chess, though, is that it's solvable. Chess is solvable. There is a best path. There is a best solution for the things in front of you, which makes chess actually a more of a viable candidate for like particle decomposition than other sports or other things. It's not more. It's just I think chess has more of kind of that binary decision algorithm process to it than like kind of other games, not sports, games. All right. So a charm is actually equal to an up, anti-down, and a regular strange. We're going to break this down into what it looks like, what it actually is. So that means we have one up. So we're actually going to start writing it in actual values. So we have one up, one anti-down. Sorry, one anti-up, one anti-down. We don't have a regular down. Okay. But so that means we have two anti-downs. All right, cool. There. So the strange are actually those kind of bit values. The charm has those bit values: 1, 1, nothing, and 2. All you need, and everything that can be decomposed in terms of the Pauli exclusion principle, is only up, down, strange, anti-strange. So you need up, anti, those conjugates: up, down, strange, charm. We don't need to include bottom and top. The reason you don't need to include bottom and top, watch, let's show you what a bottom is. So I said that a bottom is a strange, anti-strange. But what this actually is in terms of quantum mechanics, and this is why it actually kind of like, it's more troublesome. It has a weird matrix form. It has a weird matrix form associated with it that okay, so here's actually the truth. So the bottom is composed like that. It has a matrix form here that I hypothesize follows the Cabibbo matrix. That's like stuff for like particle physics. I don't have this solved, but I have this solved. So what this Cabibbo matrix means is that this bottom can decompose into any equivalent of this. Any equivalent. It's pretty cool. So that means one bottom is equal to, and let's write this down. So S is equal to, we'll actually write it in just raw numbers. So we have two S's, so we just multiply by 2. We have 2 anti-ups, 2 anti-downs, and we have one conjugate S, which is going to be regular up, regular down. So we have 1 up, 1 down. Oh, yeah, sorry. This is the solution. Okay, so you break it up into up and down. So we're going to write the bottom matrix correctly in terms of up and down theory, which is once again just a UD array. But it's a matrix because it's probability now. So we're not going to use array methods, we're going to use matrix methods. So the difficulty is I'm not sure how we would write this matrix. That's where it's up to actual, for not actual, there's no such thing as actual, obviously there is. So it's more up to PhD level physicists that I hand my knowledge to. Solve the rest of it, gentlemen. This is what I got for you guys. So you figure out whether we're going to write the matrix as up down or up anti-up. You get me? We got to figure out how we're going to write the matrix. I haven't yet put a thought into that. I don't have the time. I can't. You guys probably have better formalisms because you just make it follow your Pauli matrices, whatever you guys want. So we're going to write this in terms of the up-down thing. So we're going to use up, down, anti-up, anti-down. So we have 1 up, 1 down. We have 2 anti-up, 2 anti-down. And now you'll look at this matrix. So 1, 2, 1, 2. This is an actual matrix, actual math. Where is it? Right there. This matrix is a real matrix in quantum mechanics. So if you know how to do like your eigenvectors, eigenvalues, you can break this down, and that tells you every possible bottom decay using this matrix. This is a factual matrix. The bottom can decay into these properties right here. The product of your matrix. Pretty cool. That's why the bottom and the charm matrix, like the bottom particle, the bottom quark, and the top quark are actually they're unique states, but they're non-unique states as well. They are higher order states, which kind of are the introduction for the recursive nature of particle physics. That's why I didn't stop the theory, but I looped the theory at charm down. The particle theories for the standard model loops. You can recursively code higher order with up and down, as we saw with the bottom. You kind of do the same rules. You have to have binary rules. The thing is, the reason it stops at bottom and top is because if you try to Pauli exclusion, if you try to write in a binary way the up and down quarks for anything higher than top, it gets repetitious. These states are non-unique. So from bottom, top, they're non-unique. That's the problem. That's the problem that you face in terms of information theory. So it's not necessary. It's the weird aspect, and that explains why at a certain point of like complexity, things repeat, because no matter what, you only have two qualities of the universe: gradient, curl. We live in a binary universe. Because we live in a binary universe, you can only encode information in terms of binary restrictions. You only have so many paths to choose from. 256. For example, if you encode in any binary dualistic state. 256. Up, down, anti, up, down. You get me? Up to charm. That's why I said it's 2 to the 8. Pretty cool stuff. So I think this was very useful. We're gonna upload this one to YouTube as well. I'm pretty hungry, so if you guys have any last minute questions, because you guys have been here quite for a while, what do you guys think about this discussion? Real quick. How are you two doing? Just two of you. A dragon guy and someone else with like a little mask or something. Any comments? Any questions? Clarify. I guess he had a question about why there's 256, and that was why. What are you confused about? Oh, good. Yeah, I know. People will be confused. What part specifically? What would you like to know more of? Just obviously, this can be quite confusing. What I was talking about was just the information exchange rules that exist in this world. No matter what, everything can be decomposed. That is a decision process, which is technically everything, into 4 states: up, down, and their antis. 4 states. You can recursively code the entire universe with the UD array and its mediators. So that's the cool thing about particle physics. We have the structure for reality. We have the structure for anything. It's crazy, dude, that this is really just kind of bits going back and forth. The universe is just bits going back and forth. That really is the truth. It's the truth. I put this particle into a bit state that it did not have before. What happens if this particle goes down and decays? It falls. What happens if it decays from here to there? Well, it falls and it stops moving. How should we code that? Let's code this with an up. Why? Because why not? We could code it with a down, but it doesn't really matter. We chose this is up because up, it doesn't matter. But you have to actually figure out how to encode your motion, your action in a functional way. If I move this here, I had to do some work. I had to do some information exchange to move this state from there to here. I let go. That's an action. That's a state. That's an encoded action. What happens after I let go? It falls. Now we have that dualistic pair. No matter what, you will always have a W boson exchange or a neutral exchange, no matter what. But for me holding on to this, notice how this follows information physics. I have to hold on to this. I have to do an exchange. I have to do an exchange for this state to be held. If I let go, that's an action. Oh, I let go. Let's code that. Let's encode that. I let go. So I did up. I did an up to move it there. I'm holding on to it. I have to keep that up state. If I let go of that up state, I go into the inverse. And then we remove the particle exchange. So for any object, we can encode it with particle exchange rules for any action. And we did right now. I have to grab this object first. That's step 1. That's one of the particle states. Step 1. Then I have to raise it to my target. That's step 2. But you notice in between, there's always like this. It's so. I hope you can see this, that because there's always that weird positive negative, like there's always like you have to accelerate it, then you have to decelerate it, then it has to stop. Like these, it's beautiful. Nothing can violate the laws of information physics, the laws of physics. It's crazy. Can you begin to see why I love this so much? Like, ever since I learned how to use the standard model and encode reality with it, my life has been so easy. Like you feel so comfortable. What direction is positive or negative? Your choice. It's a choice of direction, choice of gauge. Physicists will probably make upwards negative because they like to use potential differences. oh, the reason to make it negative is because then it's like, okay, if we make it go back down, then they get energy back. It's just choice of, as they say, just a choice of gauge. It's your choice of how you want to perceive the world. Um, if we want to make everything from the ground, then we might make this positive. It's your choice. It's pretty cool how we have that ability as physicists. Another thing, if I do this action, that's stored potential, and if I let go, well, now it's here. But I let go, and notice like there's always information exchange rules. This thing only holds on to my finger because I did the state of put finger here. I let go, finger, because it was there, it now is latched onto finger. But now this is a permanent state. This will always be on my finger unless we do a particle exchange. Go over here, grab object, move finger. 2 actions. There's always going to be 2 actions minimum. It's beautiful. Beautiful stuff. The particle physics exchange rules is everything. But once you start seeing it, you realize how simple the world is. You realize how it's like, damn, you tell me I only have 256 possible actions if it's a dualistic system. Yes. Yes. It's crazy. Bits used to calculate action. Yes. You can use bits to calculate actions, to predict actions, to simplify actions. So what it actually means, so you know how machine learning algorithms work? You know how AI tracks people? Well, we can actually help the AI get better. We can help the AI, see the world not just how we see it, but faster than us. So if you're wondering about how how fighter drones and all this stuff are so smart, is they use actions. They use sequential decision algorithms. Sequential decision algorithms is really what AI is all about. So I have a PDF on my laptop. I've actually been reading through it. I stopped, but it's by Warren Powell. Warren Powell, Powell Library, cool stuff at UCLA. But he's not at UCLA. He's actually an MIT guy. So Warren Powell, he made a book called Sequential Decision Algorithms. And it's based pretty much exactly what this is. He wrote down the math that I knew was possible. So it's kind of beautiful how we all come up with these ideas together. That's exactly how it's spelled. Yes, Warren Powell. Correct. Sequential Decision Algorithms is the name of his book. He came out with it very recently, and I was surprised because I tried to apply to his company because I was like, hey, I have this really powerful tool with particle physics. I want to help you guys, and then rejected. They're like, oh no, this guy, he doesn't know anything. We can't even accept him for a summer internship position. I was like, so at this point, I have a vendetta. I'm like, well, Mr. Warren Powell, I understand exactly what you're talking about, and I find it quite beautiful how he uses, it's not acceleration modeling, but he correctly identifies the use of parameters and functions. So we use a function to sort of test for it. He's using exactly what I'm doing. So you have your normal inputs, your normal sensors, your normal actual real life things. But when it comes to a decision, a sequential decision, it's a trigger. All you need is to have triggers, which he identifies correctly. I'm like, oh, beautiful. He did the work of writing out what I have thought. We all think similarly. If you need to stop having ego in this world, don't have ego. Just basically be like, oh, I could have, and I'm glad you did, because you're obviously an expert. I have a new contribution to the field. Here's what I offer you, sir. But unfortunately, because there is ego, I have to actually hoard this knowledge for now. What triggers the trigger? Oh, well, so you have a threshold. So so you have sensor information that you keep track of. Once it goes past a thing that you just have with a trigger amount, it basically triggers a quantized action of 1. So people don't really get it, but what triggers a trigger? So imagine this is a logistics network. It's a little bit harder to imagine that. So we have a logistics network. If truck is here, if truck like has passed a certain point of its journey, we can predictively ensure that that is going to reach its supply area within a certain time. That's just a prediction thing. The reason we say prediction is because there's no guarantee for anything. So that's what's pretty cool about it. There's always a chance for truck could break down. But still, we have the trigger where the truck passed a certain point. So he's using sequential decision algorithm, the sequential modeling, to do the particle exchange, but without realizing it's particle exchange. So he's like, if truck has passed a certain amount, if logistics network has met certain characteristics, you can now send others. And if characteristic does not occur by certain time, it is only 2/3 of the way, halt other process. That's how it's pretty cool. By using quantum mechanic like statistics, if this does not arrive because this has 1/3 the way left, by the time you figure out, suppose you have a delay of 1/3 time period, 1/3 time. So you have 2/3. 2/3 is typically the recommended trigger. 2/3, this truck passed 2/3. Send other truck. By the time this truck reaches 2/3, you already have a decision of this truck hasn't arrived yet. Halt this one. Stuff like that is how you make this. It's called sequential decisions. If you do this in real life, so if I needed something to be there at a certain time, but it's not there, what are you going to do about it? You would change your plan. That's sort of what it does. So, good question. That was a very bad example, but it's like that. You know, it includes examples actually within his book. So yeah, that's just an example of how you would use like triggers that take time or actions that take real life time. Can we use that to simulate the future? Yes, but you can only simulate the future to what I would say is 2 time steps. Not crazy, but you have to realize what a time step is. A time step is not just, what's it called? It's not just a specific hour. It's not just a specific minute. It's whatever a bitwise time step is. So this is easy. What I just did with the clamp is easy. But let's give you a more deeper, scarier thing. So you've seen those videos about how the CIA and like big recon drones can track people in cities and stuff. So let's show you what I mean by time steps. I am right here right now in this building, and I am inside right now. This is a bit of information. I am here, I am stationary. This is a bit, a time step. So if I were to change that and go into another location, like you can predict local phenomenon with their local bit values. It's up to you to figure out what bit values are significant enough pairs that you can predict the next action. I am hungry. Maybe I'll go get some food. I might actually. Shit, I actually might. But suppose I do go get food. So right now I'm actually unpredictable. I'm still predictable, and everybody's predictable, but I'm unpredictable because I am kind of like a particle in a bound trap state. If I move out, I can move out in a different direction. But as soon as I move out to a different direction, you can use based off like the exchange rules. Like, okay, bitwise information. Where is he going? He's going to somewhere else. Well, predicting time step, he's going to eventually come back. He has to come back because that's his dwelling. That's his home. That's sort of what it means. You can predict up to 2 time steps, roughly, always. Not perfectly, but you can predict 2 time steps. It looks weird, man. It looks like I got like a... Damn. Sucks. Anyways, yeah. Do you see that? Yeah, you can predict two time steps with like pretty good accuracy with all your tools of what is possible. So the most likely outcome won't always occur. So if that's why we use these particle exchange rules, because they're actually probability. Just because I go out somewhere, once again, it's like a random process. Like I may not always do the same thing. Am I still working on that algorithm? Yes and no. Yes, I actually have it done. We have the UD array to switch to the WZ, but now I got to build that library. So I was kind of hesitating on it. What we really need is we need a ton of undergraduates. We need a ton of physicists, just young physicists, students basically, to just write down or someone that's really good at coding to figure out how to import the information from the particle data group and to write down these reactions and solve these reactions in terms of the actual quark model. The reason we want to solve these reactions for the quark model is so if we encounter them, well, you just put on those states. That's what it is. It helps for what's it called? Calculations. So the decay process is just half of it. We have yet another branch of physics that we can save information. We can solve calculations, but I want to solve memory too. To solve memory, we have to figure out, or at least not chemists. It's so weird. Chemists are waiting for physicists to unite quantum physics and chemistry. Physicists are waiting for chemists to basically do that. But I successfully passed for the helium atom, but I don't know organic chemistry, and I don't know chemistry well enough in terms of like these. I need small particles, small molecules first, and I need to solve these reactions and their stability. I need to basically show how we can use the quark model and this higher level form that I have. So you can now use only for macro particles, only for particles bigger than hydrogen atoms, can you use double state. The Pauli exclusion principle doesn't hold anymore. You can use double state, which is 2 ups and 2 downs for the equivalent of 1 up and 1 down. But if you do that, I noticed there's a different set of rules. Not crazy different, just a little bit different. So hydrogen atom is actually composed of up, up, down. But it's like macro up, macro down. A hydrogen atom is a freaking proton of the macro particles. Isn't that crazy? Boom. And it's beautiful when you see it that way, because it really does have those properties in chemistry. But that's as far as I can go, because the helium atom is made of, I think, two macro ups, 2 macro downs. Sorry, it's 2 macro ups, 2 macro downs, and I think 1 macro anti-down. So helium atom is actually is different, but it has stability. The helium atom has stability as well, and it shows you that. The helium atom is like a neutron, actually. It's crazy. Can I say that again about the hydrogen atom? The hydrogen atom has the properties from what I've seen. It has the it's weird. It's exactly like a freaking proton. You know how a proton is made of up, up, down? The hydrogen atom is made of macro up, macro down. So it's literally a proton, but in a macro state. It's crazy, dude. It's weird. That's also why it's like what the hell? And if you look at how let me guess, the bitwise patterns, it works. Let me check on that. Let me check on that real quick. All right. Proton. Never mind. Sorry. The helium has those properties. Sorry, the helium is actually those properties. The hydrogen atom if we include the electron as a D, is unstable unless it has another. So I did free state. If you do chained, so this is actually pretty cool. I did a free state hydrogen atom. What can we say about water then? So for a free state hydrogen atom, with just hydrogen, so proton electron, it's UUD plus D. So it's a macro up, macro down. It's not stable yet. It needs something else. It needs another macro. So that's the pretty cool thing. Sorry, I misspoke about the hydrogen atom. But if you have two of them together, like it's crazy how these rules start. There are additional stability rules that we have yet to uncover for the macro particles. But we have them. Chemistry is mostly solved, so all we have to do is just add quark rules to chemistry. If we can do that, so you know how I decomposed the decay reactions into calculations. That's just pretty cool. The universe has two types of information: calculation, which is decay processes, and storage, which is memory processes. Memory processes are literally, what do I look like to you? I am made of tons of chemical bonds. I am a stored state. If I was to decompose all of me into these bitwise information, well, you have a new reaction. You have a new memory. You have a new thing to store. So the future of memory storage will be using chemical molecules and chemical reactions as equivalents. Like, so in my game or something, you might be able to use like suppose glucose or something. Not glucose. That's a big one. CNO3, something like that. You can use actual chemical molecules to store data for a computer. So instead of having to store, like lots of information, you can use recursive coding and be like, oh, that's equivalent to this chemical reaction. Why is it? Well, because it has the same stability rules. Information is the same regardless. If you can figure out what chemical reactions correspond to what common memory state, then you save a lot of data. That's what's pretty cool about it. We can eventually use chemistry to compute things as well. And that's the future. But we're not there yet, because chemists are waiting for physicists and physicists are waiting for chemists. All it's going to take is one chemist to basically look at the standard model like this. I don't know chemistry. I don't know organic chemistry. But if you can build, so the hydrogen atom, so you need to start from the hydrogen atom, use the quark content, build up, go to the helium, from there, go to lithium, and from there, like, try to build with basic reactions. It's like, oh, I remember there was this reaction of H plus, H2O, for example. But we have to build it to O first. Before we can go to H2O, which is so simple, we need to understand how to get to O. So we got to really build slowly. The highest I gone was helium. I'm not sure how to test for lithium, because there's different states. There's like, and that's the problem with it. Like what are you? Which amount of neutrons is the best one? Which neutron is the one to help us like build this model? Because how there's different. I forgot what they're called. Allotropes, isotopes. So there's different chemicals with different amounts of neutrons. Yeah, like I don't know enough about that to basically make like these helpful predictions. Like, shit, bro, you need to actually have reactions to work with to test if they work, to test if they're valid. The hydrogen one works and the helium one works, but that's it. I can't solve anything else because I'm not a chemist. I don't know common reactions. I tried looking up some, but I'm kind of worried about what's it called? The isotopes. Isotopes have me confused. Sounds so very complex. But if you could unlock that, we would solve memory storage issues. Like I tried making that video of like right now our memory storage is just square. It's linear, volumetric. Like at most, you can only get exponential increases, but like it's linear increases. With that process, we can have an exponential to an exponential. So we can store memory in a linear amount of space, but that linear amount of space will have an exponential amount of data stored within it. It's pretty cool. Because particle exchange rules, as we showed earlier, can do calculations, so we can also do memory storage with it. What is a reaction? A reaction is any exchange of information. It just has to follow the particle exchange rules. So like I said earlier with the clip, that's a reaction. Squeezing is a reaction. Yeah, I've heard water stores information before. Well, yeah, exactly. Everything has that information capabilities within it. So yeah, I think this was a really good discussion. Any last questions? Because I'd like to cut it just so we can have this to YouTube. So it was a very, very good discussion this period. Any questions, gentlemen? Also, I'm pretty hungry, so I'm thirsty. Quite thirsty. What is your perspective on the mind and the brain? Is there a connection? I've said this earlier, but yes, there is a connection. The mind is the connection of information, the neural pathing of the brain. The brain is a tool. The brain allows these patterns, these firings of neurons in a way that you can feel and in a way that is taxing. So the beautiful unification of physics and biology is that we both agree on the principle of least action. Everything tries to what's called maximize energy efficiency, so get the most amount of information, most amount of gains with the least amount of work. So I've shown this before, but if you have a trash mental algorithm and you have tons of bits, tons of these transistor usage, you're going to get tired very quickly because your concept of the world is too confusing. I've actually, because I understand this particle exchange so much, like recently, like I've been doing, like, you know how, people in spirituality call these tower moments. Tower moments is when you finally uncover a major lesson of life. I've been flying through these things. I've been, wow, man, like I can see the world now. So you really have to like path the world with information. So like I said, this example before, this background pattern can be a state of information. It's white, this is black, contrast. Anytime you have some like sort of major contrast, you can consider storing, if you want, as bits. There is the wall, which is not me, and there is that which is me. It's those kinds of stuff. So the brain does it's not just bit stuff. What it really is Fourier space. If you can understand how Fourier space looks like, that's how your brain works. Your brain is a really good, fast Fourier calculator. Your brain can break up things. Watch. On my brain, let me just tell you what I identify. This is black. That's black. This is black. We got black here, black there, black there, black within the mouth, darkness, the contrast. Your brain breaks up elements. If you can describe what elements you see, you can start seeing how your brain stores information. So it's always in Fourier space. Everything is in Fourier space. I see some white shining, some white shining, some white shining. And if you break apart this world, you can imagine passing it through a Fourier image decompiler, that's how your brain works. Start recognizing that, and then things will feel a lot less difficult. But that's only for image recognition. That's only for idea recognition. That only helps you like solve ideas. In order to solve like what's called emotion and solve social pathing, you really do need not Fourier composition, you need bit composition. And bit composition actually comes from this dynamic of inner world, outer world. So I have gotten used to understanding how to communicate myself perfectly. Not perfectly, obviously, because, some people, I fail sometimes, as well as I don't really communicate to their consciousness. What I mean by perfectly is that I've learned how to flow my consciousness with confidence without giving an F about how these people receive me. Because these other people have this blind view of the world. You know, they're like, the world is humanity and society, and that is what it is, and that's what it always ever will be. Like, so what? The world is more than just ego. There's more to this. Is gravity real, or is it true that it's just a curve of space-time? It is just a curve of space-time. Yeah, and gravity is real. It's the curvature of space-time. But I'll put you one step further. This is what pissed me off about all these physicists. Everybody, like all these traditional physicists, say that the fourth dimension is time. Anybody that says the fourth dimension is time, I will unironically call them a fucking idiot. Straight up, I'll say those words. You're an idiot because you don't realize how actually having an actual fourth dimensional curved actual fourth dimension, which physically exists, explains what's called spatial dilation. So I'll show you this example before we cut it out. So imagine there's a black hole right. I'll go right here. So imagine there's a black hole at this wall right here, a black hole at that wall. So I could walk towards that wall. I'm running towards that wall. I will physically feel like I ran 10 meters, even though I only moved 10 centimeters. What the hell? But I was running for 10 meters. Let's run away from that wall. I run away from that wall at for 10 meters, 10 centimeters away. I run away from that wall at 10 meters. Okay, I'm a meter away now. What the hell? Where's this difference in space travel? Like I'm physically, I know I moved 10 meters, but I only moved 1. Why is this happening? Because you're actually traveling through a physical dimension. There is a fourth dimension to our universe. We actually live in a fourth dimensional universe. The fourth dimension is curvature of inward outward. It's not time. The fifth dimension is time. It just happens that that the math works if you write it as time. But I think that's stupid. Like, so what? So what if the math works if you write it as time? There is a physical fourth dimension though. You get me? Like, just recognize it. Like, ugh. You get me? It's because like, here's why. They'd be like, but if we write it as time, then that actually compresses the light waves, bro. Be like, yeah, also traveling through space, you can also say it doesn't compress them, but it actually takes energy to travel out, which causes your redshifting. And if you go into space, you accelerate, and you get me? It turns blue. Blue shifting from this. You can get the same phenomenon with actually having a real fourth dimension. So we live in a fifth dimensional universe if you want to include time as its own dimension. But I don't believe so. I don't believe we should include time as its own dimension. Time should always be recognized as just what's called, I wrote it in my own notes as T is equal to delta S, so actual traversal of space-time, minus X, or delta X, our perceived notion of distance. Time is literally just that difference. Time is the difference of what we think should happen versus what actual distance we travel. That's how you get time dilation. That's literally, it is actually how it's written like that in general relativity. But they use something else, like they call it curvature of space-time, and they don't subtract from, actually they do. It literally is the exact same thing, proper time. So, yeah, do you believe they found a white hole now? I don't think they found a light hole. I don't think they found a white hole. If anything, it's probably just a really small supermassive black hole that just kind of like has a lot of like mass near it, and so it kind of just accelerates it outwards. If anything, it might be something that's really close to a black hole, but not quite. Interesting. Was time made up or discovered? I always had the thought that humans made it up. That's a good question. I would say differences in time and tracking time was made up, but time itself is real. Unfortunately, time is real in a weird way. Obviously, the physicists will always argue that okay, if you go backwards in time in the universe, forwards in time in the universe, you theoretically couldn't tell. But that's a weird question. As far as weak flow is concerned, as far as like how these particles like are will always kind of have this. It's weird. If time goes backwards, then our concept of matter in this universe has to be inverted as well. And if time was to flow backwards, then we are owed energy, which is not. It's funny, like that's why you should play with the concept of time as a physicist, and you should use it to recognize and build your concept of the world. We are stored energy, because if we go backwards in time, our energy will be released back into particles. These particles, so that's why physicists are like, time technically makes sense both ways, but it kind of doesn't make sense forwards, because we come together from these particle reactions. Like the universe slowed down and cooled, but that's just from gravity, gravitational effects, and quite a lot of cool stuff, a lot of interesting ones. Albert Einstein, but I don't trust him, so I don't know. Do you think consciousness is time? Consciousness is not time, but yes, okay. Yes and no. It's not consciousness. I think what is time is weak flow. So all these interactions of any information exchange is time for us. Any information exchange is time for us. Time, like I said, is just movement through space. You can have movement through space no matter what. So the proper definition of time in terms of all particle stuff, all physics, would have to be the energy-time relation and the position-momentum relation. Add those together, write them for particles, and you'll see that time will always be forced to flow. That's weak flow. Flies experience time in slow motion compared to us. Lucky bastards. Or not so, maybe not. Even though they live 2 weeks, it's a full life to them because everything moves so slow. I'm not sure about that, man, honestly. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if they actually experience time slower. That's the weird thing. Like, they react very quickly. But what is time for perceiving animals? That's quite difficult to understand, to predict. That's why I can't swat them with my hand. Well, besides the fact that they move quickly, the reason why you can't swat them with your hand is because, like, as soon as you move, it pushes airflow, and they actually ride that. I've seen that before. If you swat them with your hand, even though you're perfect, you can feel them. You can tap them sometimes if they're fat, but if they're small, they swipe around because of the wind. They're either psychic or Agent Smith. Lamau. Any last questions, gentlemen? We'll cut it at guaranteed 11:30. I've been extending it a little bit each time. I've been saying gotta go. You guys have some good questions right now. Very good questions. Or unless the audio turns to ass because there's a truck that might be doing the beep, Makes sense air pushing them around my hand. Yeah, quite. Technically tied. Bro, nice. How are you gentlemen doing? I have it on for 4 more minutes. My phone's also kind of dying, so it's at 30% right now. I began this at like 80. I thought this was a really good discussion. Glad you guys showed up. In the beginning, I was just roasting. I was roasting another guy. I'm gonna go game. Hell yeah, bro! Enjoy your Saturday. I unfortunately can't really enjoy my games as much because I'm not. I don't have a good gaming PC. But as soon as I work my new job, sorry, I apologize for that. As soon as I work my new job, I'm going to buy a gaming PC, and I'll definitely enjoy my games for real. Great talk. Thank you. Absolutely. I was just making some roast in the very beginning of that one guy it's so funny. He's like, remove the ego, and he has the lights in the background, and so like I should basically be like, remove the ego, and you will understand that life and consciousness. Like, what is consciousness? Consciousness is actually the
The sets of all sets. It is the understand. I'm like, bro, yeah, I don't like that, And he doesn't really he doesn't give good answers. He's a fellow physics major, but I would say anybody that kind of that believes in Buddhism over anything else, like Buddhism's not the answer. That's what I learned. Buddhism's not the answer. Seeking ego death is motivated by the ego. Perhaps, and quite likely, yeah, exactly. I would say if you don't see the particle physics relation of information of everything, and you don't see, like he said, how can one know if reincarnation is real? I'm like, no, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Everything will loop no matter what, in a weird way. In a weird way, information will always persist. That's the cool thing. That's the thing that we can't fight. Set theory shows that information will always exist. Our information and our concept of what we liked and we enjoyed is going away. It loops, it spirals both up and down. You can have universes that are made of fucking like trillions of bits, tons of bits, but even those bits will have their recursion break them down to some equivalent of up, down, some binary states. Can we consciously control ourselves on a cellular level? On a cellular level, I don't think so. Actually, maybe a little bit, just a little bit, because you've heard about how like you have better health if you have like kind of better mentalities and healthier stuff. Like you can consciously control yourself. I think yes, on a somewhat of a cellular, not cellular, maybe even genetic in a way. Always remember your influence on epigenetics. I think the weird thing about epigenetics is I think what's happening is it's almost like DNA is like kind of like a what's it called? Like a seismometer. It's measuring your stress levels of your life. I think that was the best description I heard of it, because back when I had my biologist girlfriend, I was actually watching her classes and just looking through them. And one of the best descriptions of epigenetics was it's almost like a seismometer where it detects stressful periods in your life. It detects whether you're going through difficult periods, and it actually kind of turns on and turns off your receptors. Not receptors, but like encoding. So we're not sure exactly yet too much about what it has influence on your children, but it might influence your children to be fatter than you. It's like, oh, you were very skinny. Like make sure that your kids, when they go through this stressful event, get your fat genes. Stuff like that. Also, like you were very skinny when you were younger. Like you didn't have muscles or stuff like that. So your kids will not have that expression. They're gonna. Genes are meant to copy the path that you lived. It's like you survived. You were successful enough. We're gonna make sure that your genes passed kind of exactly the same way. Obviously not exactly the same way, but like we're gonna kind of make sure your child follows roughly the same path. So you want to try to make sure you work out. You want to try to make sure you make yourself feel better, fit. Don't hurt yourself. Try to stay healthy, because if you're not, your genes are basically going to say like, hey, that was successful enough, let's try to copy that. I noticed some traits are every other generation. Precisely. Another thing as well. Genetics is quite fascinating, quite beautiful. So yeah, I'm gonna go get some food. Have a good afternoon, gentlemen. It was really great talking to you guys, and this will be uploaded to YouTube. So see you guys.